Ready Check Radio.
Stand by as we get ready to serve up all your news this week in the world of gaming. Welcome to Gaming Gumbo. Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to Gaming Gumbo. It's Tuesday. It's 7 p.m. Eastern. That means we do a little podcast here on Ready Check Radio. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man, and this is episode 146. We're doing the show live, of course, as we always do, twitch.tv/Ready Check Radio with chat ready to chime in on our topics. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, listening on Audible, Spotify, any of the podcast platforms, thank you so much. Give it a like, a subscribe, turn on those notifications, all the good stuff that feeds the algorithms, and of course, hit us up on ReadyCheckRadio.com. Backlog of all the episodes, all the socials, all right there for you to follow and join us live the next time you have a chance. Joining me to go over all the fun stuff today, resident artist of Ready Check Radio, Yod. What's up, sir?
Hey, doing the drawing thing, finally running art programs on the mass machine back here.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Welcome.
But yeah.
Also on the line, the Noob Fridge, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What's up, boss?
For those of you who don't know, I work nights. And normally bedtime is 6:30 to 7. This morning I had to go in for a supervisor's meeting at 6. So my sleep schedule is all kinds of screwed up today. So please forgive these eyeballs that are like half open.
He's going to take a nap after the show.
Yes, I am.
Going to go take a little nap. Well, then I'll tell you what, Troy. I'll help you out. We'll just forget the jibber jabber and we'll get right to it. Let's talk about our first big topic today. Jeff Kaplan, Overwatch, and Blizzard. And I'm going to say, if you haven't been following this, it's definitely worth the read. It was like a 5-hour podcast over on the Lex Friedman podcast, like a 5-hour plus chat. And there's all kinds of nuggets of information in here. I'm going to admit, though, I was not surprised by a single thing he said personally, Troy, having worked with and around Blizzard and their PR department. And just I remember us with Jason Winter and others speculating when Overwatch 2 was announced and what was going on behind the scenes. I really was not surprised. I'm surprised to hear him speaking as publicly about it as he is, because he certainly had the chance. He left in 2021, so he's been gone for 5 years and kind of opted not to say any of this stuff publicly. But now is, and it's certainly
I'm sure he was under some kind of NDA until
I don't think so.
Probably.
Because there are things that he says, he references, when we get to some of the quotes, he does reference how much money Overwatch was expected to make, and he just says redacted. And the reason it's redacted is because he's under NDA on those types of things. So I don't think he was under NDA for 3 years on X and 10 years on Y. That's generally not the way those work. But
True.
Yeah, so co-creator of Overwatch, Jeff Kaplan, in this long-ass interview, talks about many, many things, and one of them is his departure from Blizzard in the aforementioned year of 2021, and then the business model for Overwatch, and how Overwatch League, Troy, is what put the crimp on Overwatch in his book, and I don't think any of us are surprised by that.
No, not at all. There was always such a deep dive into the sort of the esports portion of the game that it's not really all that surprising and fairly obvious when you go back and look, now that he's mentioned it, that the esports side of it took precedence and the game itself suffered because of it.
Yeah, and it was them just selling it to investors, and hey, it's going to be as big or bigger than the NFL, and we're going to sell jerseys, and we're going to sell hats and all the merch that comes with the NFL. And
which, I mean, if they let it happen organically, the game comes out, people start playing it, things start organizing a little bit, and eventually the league rolls out, that could have worked fine. But from the sounds of everything that he said, they were trying to cram it down people's throats so hard that, like you said, it impeded the game, it impeded enjoyment, it impeded Overwatch 2.
Yeah, because then all that
detrimental-
development, the developmental focus becomes getting, merchandise onto the game store to sell
Right.
skins and things like that to go with the teams and everything. Jeff Kaplan says, what ultimately broke me and my Blizzard career was I got called to the CFO's office, and he sits me down and he says, he gives me a date, which at the time was 2020, and was going to slip to 2021, but at that time it was 2020. And he said, Overwatch has to make Redacted in 2020, and then every year after that it needs a recurring revenue of Redacted. And then he says to me, if it doesn't do Redacted, we're going to lay off 1,000 people, and that's going to be on you. That was the biggest fuck you moment I've had in my career. It felt surreal to be in that condition. As someone who's worked on a lot of games, made a lot of games, you get in these meetings where they're like, Fortnite has 1,400 people working on it. So if we just hire 1,400 people and make it free to play, we'll make that money, right? I had believed that I would never work in any place but Blizzard. I loved it. It was a part of who I was. And I thought that I was a part of it. And I literally thought I'd retire from the place. I never thought the day would come, but that was it. Luckily for Blizzard, that CFO is no longer there. And it should be noted that Dennis Durkin was actually the CFO of Activision Blizzard from 2019 to May of 2021. Armin Zerza then took over the role until 2025. Kaplan's departure was announced. We found out about it April 20th of 2021. So whether it was Dennis or on the outgo or Armin on the income, we don't know for sure. Kaplan didn't say. But yeah, pinned it all on that. Hey, didn't Overwatch make $50 million in just the live game last year? Well, what can we sell? What can you give us? And then the pressure on the dev team builds and ship Overwatch 2, and that's all we care about. And yeah, and then years later, we see where that lands us, Troy. On the Overwatch front, at least.
Yeah, on the Overwatch front itself, it's really, you hear that kind of stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. But at the same time, you really can believe they said that, especially coming from an upper executive who really doesn't sound like they had hands-on with any sort of development of any kind. It was a financial officer. All they were worried about was the money. How much money can we make? And they were trying to make a lot of money fast instead of letting, like Yod said, this thing grow organically and make a lot of money over time, and let it sustain itself. And you could make money for years and years and years. Instead, they were worried about how much money can we make right freaking now. And in the long term of the game, it didn't pan out. From what I understand from seeing what other people are saying, the game is getting back into a better place now. But they really shot themselves in the foot with this.
Yeah, and Yod, he goes on to say that when Blizzard wasn't able to make those types of goals, particularly on the Overwatch League side, then the onus then turned to the dev team again, right? Trying to drive the Overwatch League to the point of forcing the dev team to create certain amounts of league-based sellable content in-game. And then when the Overwatch League isn't doing financially well, the pressure comes back around onto the dev team to make good on that missing money. And he says, I don't know how to phrase this in a way that's not damning, but there was too much focus on let's make a lot of money really fast, and a lot of people got drawn to it.
Yeah, it's... I also have to think that, them putting the kibosh on a single-player storyline game also kind of killed Overwatch 2 quite a bit, because if you have a PvE type situation living alongside the PvP, which goes a long way with some people, because people like me who don't really like PvP will get drawn into the game, play the PvE, and once we're done with that, got nothing else to do, but our friends are playing the PvP side. So we'll dip our finger in there, and you get more player base, and more player base. They buy more things eventually, and once again, you let it grow organically. You make the money in the long term. But you get someone in there that's all about the numbers, and they don't really care about actually making the game good so that your player base sticks around for the long run.
Right.
Yeah,
and
it's
let's not beat around
Yeah.
the bush, right? Like, game companies are there to make money, right? I get it. They're not there.
oh yeah,
You might have small little, my brother and I decide to make a game. We're not trying to become super rich. It's because we have a passion project and we want to get this game out, right? Like, that stuff happens too.
right.
But when you start
Yeah.
talking about your Activisions, your Blizzards, your EAs, even your Ubisofts and those types of development houses, you're talking about companies that want to make money. So these types of, and maybe in some cases are publicly traded, so now they have the added pressure of shareholders wanting to make an infinite amount of money year over year over year, despite that not being sustainable in any way, shape, or form, to just continuously make more and more and more and more. So it's not surprising that, like, the pressure coming down from above, particularly on the CFO side of a company, is, hey, we got to find ways to make more money, more money, more money. However, that's his job. That's his job. He looks at a spreadsheet. But it is kind of amazing when you can't just look at what is an astronomical hundreds of millions of dollars success and not try to spin it off and spend so much money into a league to make it bigger, where even like a CFO's got to look at it and go, okay, honestly, Troy, do we really expect the Overwatch League to get bigger than the NFL? Like, realistically, is that something we should be selling to investors to try and buy teams? That's the part that's staggering to me. Usually you would expect somebody that's like the CFO to go, let's not overpromise, let's just overdeliver, right? when it comes to the finance side of things, it's just staggering. Some of the choices that were made with the Overwatch League in particular.
And you see the decline of esports as a whole anyway. It's not just the Overwatch League that didn't meet these lofty expectations that are set way too freaking high. It's other leagues as well. I mean, they had their boom period and there was a chance to make money in that window, but the window to make hundreds of millions of dollars, I think, is closed in esports as a whole. It's still out there, it still exists. I'm not saying esports is dead, but it's nothing like what people thought it was going to be when it was in sort of its boom period, and people thought that it would compete with sports like NFL, NBA, MLB. It just doesn't do that.
Go ahead, Yod. You were about to say something too.
Yeah, to me it seems like, because of the way that the games market works, with how people will like a game for a certain amount of time, and it'll be like a flash in the pan or whatever, and then they'll move on to the next game and the next game. So a esports league like situation, you can't really go. It doesn't quite seem to have the same attraction as a live sports event like football, baseball, basketball. Hell, even baseball is a little windy down these days after 100 some odd years. But so in esports league, because of how finicky a lot of the fan base is, I see it more like it would work better like an Olympic thing, where you build up and like every 4 years you have some big event.
Well, and the Olympic
NFL.
Games have the International Olympic Committee. They've talked about doing that. In fact, they had the contract with Saudi Arabia that they then removed. Takal said, "There's nothing effed up about firing if you don't hit your targets." In response to that whole conversation, they're okay. On the surface, yeah, I agree, right? Like, if your business isn't successful, you got to let people go, no matter what business it is, video gaming or whatever. And if it's ultimately super, super not successful, then everybody will be let go at some point and it's no longer a business. Yeah, I get it. There's nothing fucked up about that in theory. There is certainly something fucked up by CFOs making terrible, and other executive leaders making terrible decisions, trying to sell a product outside, them being the ones making them decisions, and then coming back to the person that's developed this or at least led the project for $100 multi-millions of dollars product that made you money to begin with, and telling them that if we don't meet these numbers, we're going to have to lay people off and it's on you. That's the fucked up part to me. Like, it is not Jeff Kaplan's decisions that led Overwatch to be in the financial position that it must have been in, the way Jeff Kaplan is talking about it, for the executives to come back and say that. It was the executive decisions on the Overwatch League. And if you're going to lay people off as a result of not meeting those numbers, okay, fine. Like, I can't begrudge you that. But to turn around and try and pin it on and tell somebody else, hey, it's going to be your fault if you don't meet these enhanced targets because of our own failure. And while that may be what happens behind the scenes in any given business anyway, it's just not said out loud. To actually say it out loud to the person is the really fucked up part, right? They didn't have to say it to him. That's the bitch of it, Troy, right? Like, they could have just said, hey, we've got some new financial targets. Here's what they are. And if we don't meet them, we're going to have to make some hard decisions. And they could have just left it at that, right? And everybody
stopped right there.
Yeah, and everybody would have been like, greedy company gets greedier, did not get greedy target, let people go. Okay, we would have talked about that for 5 minutes and gone on. To turn around and actually say that to Kaplan is just like, why? You didn't have to say that. And that's the fucked up part. Yeah, shutting up is free. Yeah. Like, to Cal, you're right. Shutting up is free. That's all they had to do, was not say that to Jeff Kaplan. Other items of note that in the interview, and again, it's like over 5 hours long, but it's definitely worth it if you're even remotely interested in anything Blizzard. They asked Kaplan about AI, of course, right? And Kaplan says, what I don't worry about, no matter how good AI gets, it's never going to draw a picture like former Overwatch art director Arnold sang. It's never going to tell a story like World of Warcraft executive creative director Chris Metzen. The human spirit is irreplaceable. And he does refer to AI right now as an interesting fever dream, saying that could be a transformative force for good, but it's currently being abused to just grow balance sheets rather than help the people. It's instead been replacing the people. Black Ops, obviously, a nice example of that, because it made more money than it's ever made before, and people still got laid off as well. So those are
I totally
Kaplan's
agree with
thoughts.
Jeff on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because like, you can use AI in certain ways to enhance what your artists and storytellers and stuff, to make them better, make them more efficient, whatever. But you still got to keep that human spirit. But right now, like you said with Black Ops, it's just slop that they're just putting in place instead of using an actual person. And on top of that, not many humans can tell a story like Metzen can. But it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, so this is one that I'm kind of split on. I personally think that, and let's set aside any challenges I have with AI, just looking strictly at the technology. Could it draw a picture? Could it do a writing and inject some of that human emotion? I think it will get to the point, Troy, where it can do it for visuals far earlier than it will get there for narrative-driven text or storytelling or things like that. I just think it simply has and he does, by the way, call scraping of art for AI training theft, Kaplan. Like, that's his view on that, and I totally agree with that. Like, if you want to volunteer or maybe even get paid a couple of bucks to have your art fed, by all means, do what you want with your art. But just taking art is theft. Anyway,
right.
I think we're going to get there with art faster than we, particularly visual mediums, than we will with narrative. Can it get there? Could an AI at some point write the in-depth lore and narrative in a compelling, readable way like Warcraft or Lord of the Rings, or insert, 70 Brandon Sanderson novels here? Maybe. I think it could get there. It would all be derivative, though, right? Just like
Yeah,
everything AI does, is
therein
that
lies
there's
the problem.
there's always going to be that undercurrent. It's just how small can you make it noticeable? There's always going to be that undercurrent of its derivative work based on what the AI has quote unquote learned. And I hate, by the way, that that's the language we use for this. It's just, can you hide the derivative nature from the viewer, the reader, the person ingesting or consuming the media? That's what the AI's companies are trying to do right now, because you're never gonna. It's not gonna create by itself. It creates based off emulation. When you're talking about generate a picture of X, Y, or Z, generate a short story of X, Y, or Z, and humans do that to a certain extent, right? Yeah. I mean, almost everything fantasy based has some tie at this point to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also iterative, where AI doesn't have the capability to be iterative in a totally creative way, Troy, if that makes sense.
Well, until Skynet launches anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, holy hell. I knocked my mouse and keyboard off the desk here, and it just like, yeah, hold on.
Wondering what that is.
There, we are restored.
And technically, Skynet does exist. It's what they call the United Airlines intranet. So, once that gets kicked off, we know we can blame United Airlines for that one.
Other things in the interview expressed is that apparently Blizzard initially feared that World of Warcraft only had about a 5-year lifespan.
I mean, I can kind of understand that, because most games, like I said previously, gamers are fickle in what they like.
Yeah.
And a lot of the previous MMOs and other games, when Warcraft was created, pretty much had a 5-year lifespan.
Yeah, and that's what.
If they didn't,
go ahead.
If they didn't invest the huge money they made back into the game like they have to improve it over time, the visuals, the gameplay, the storytelling, the things that they have, it would have absolutely had just a 5-year as it existed at the time. I think it absolutely would have just had like a 5, 6, 7 year lifespan at the most, probably.
That mentality is what led to Project Titan, which was then eventually canceled many years later, which was then repurposed, some of it, not all of it, but some of it into Overwatch. So very interesting chain of events on that front. And yeah. So what's Jeff doing now? What is Jeff doing now? Well, he had like a multi-hour stream after the next day, I think it was after this, where he's apparently been working with his own studio, about 30, 34 people, something like that. And they are working on a new game called The Legend of California, which I'm showing some B-roll here now. He very much says, hey, this is kind of like a Rust Dead Redemption. A Red Dead Redemption and Rust. Open world action survival shooter. Takes place in like the gold rush era of California, but the open world's an island. So it's not like the real California as far as the state goes.
The island of California.
Yeah, but there's cowboys, there's prospectors, you'll hunt and mine and do all that type of stuff. And this is actually being published by Mike Morhaim's company, Dreamhaven, former Blizzard fame as well, from Mike Morhaim. And so, yeah, here it is. Now, there is some like procedural stuff that he says is going on here, or I guess not procedural. I guess I should say randomized stuff here. So you could have like one biome on my server is kind of like the starting server, while that same biome on another server, just because of the way things played out, might be endgame. So there's going to be some randomized elements like that. Looks pretty interesting. Again, it doesn't seem like something that's going to be really my cup of tea, but Troy, when I saw this, I was like, I bet I could see Troy sinking some hours in here. I bet I could see it.
Yeah, it looks like it could be interesting. It just kind of depends on, what sort of the gameplay loop is. I mean, it's definitely survival sandbox, but is there going to be more to it than just base building and shooting everybody on site?
Yeah, do you like the whole Wild West vibe to it?
It's not my main thing, but this game does look like it could be some fun.
He played
Like,
it for a
just to
long time.
wander around it.
By the way, while he was streaming this, he was like, he basically started this whole diatribe about hate culture on the internet when it comes to gaming. Like, if you don't like a game, they're like being super vocal about it on the internet about how much you hate a game. And it's just like, and he was just like, fuck off. Like, just don't play it. Like, how hard is this? If you don't like it, don't play it.
Yeah, I totally get where he's coming from, and I agree with him. But what else is the internet made for other than hating on things? Come on now.
All right, so since you bring up hating on things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Sometimes the transitions write themselves.
Yeah, sometimes the segues are just built right into the damn conversation. Bungie's Marathon has been released. It's been out since what? The 2nd, so like 15 days, about 2 weeks. And it's had its kind of first big update as after that as well, which we'll talk about a funny thing that the update did. Now,
it is a loud update.
Yes. So there is quite a bit of buzz in both directions about Marathon right now. If you look at just Steam, it's got over 20,000 reviews, and it's coming in very positive. I think we would agree that that is the best that Bungie could have hoped for, right?
Yeah.
Going into this. And then if you flip and look at the console side, it seems to be doing well there too, with like some 4s and stuff like that. When you look at Metacritic and you start looking at critic reviews, on the PlayStation 5, it gets an 80% based on 15 reviews. It gets a 72 on PC based on 13 reviews, critic reviews, and there aren't enough in on the Xbox yet to get that. But Marathon's PC score on Metacritic from users is a 6.3, which doesn't exactly jive with the mostly positive that you see on Steam. So a little bit weird. Now, there's also numbers analysis going on, and the fact that Sony hasn't like jumped forward and said, hey, it's sold 1 million copies by this point is a little probably concerning. If Sony needed this to sell, or Bungie needed this to sell 1 million copies as fast as possible. And it's by far a PC game. Like, by far, the audience is skewing way towards PC. And just like we have with these types of games, generally speaking, it is a very peaks and valleys when it comes to how many people are online. When you look at something like Steam charts, you can tell that it's predominantly a Western audience playing this game based on the times that the peaks are happening and the times that the valleys are happening. Long term, don't know if that's going to be great for the game. But in doing some analysis, looking at it, you can see that like there does seem to be a nice sticky player base in the people that like this game are putting the hours into the game. And they're staying putting the hours into the game. I think the next 2 weekends are going to be big for Marathon. That's going to be kind of your drop-off point, right? You had your launch 2 weeks ago. You kind of had your first update to address some early player feedback and some bugs and things like that. Now, what do the numbers look like this coming weekend, next weekend, over as we finish out March? I have zero interest in personally playing Marathon, but that is nothing against Marathon in particular. It's just not my type of game. It's one of those ones that if I ever see it like free on the Epic Store or for $1 on Steam, some Steam sale, yeah, I'll probably pick it up and maybe play a match here or there. But it is very much the type of game that a few of my children would love. And besides the time to kill being a little faster than they're used to, there is some enjoyment going there. Yod, being the Destiny guy, taking a break from it, have you checked this out? Have you been following it? What are your early thoughts on the old Marathon as it begins its sprint?
Yeah, I've been following it. I played the original Marathon, and that could be a problem. Because I enjoyed the original Marathon, and this is not that.
No, not at all.
No, and I think that's a mistake, personally. But that being neither here nor there, from everything that I've kept tabs on with this, it does seem like they kind of took the essence of the Destiny gunplay and all that stuff and put it into an extraction shooter. Unfortunately for them, that also means that the core thing about Destiny, and it's been this way for the longest time, and playing it throughout the years that I did, I came to realization that a lot of the grinding and the dragging of the game, the reason I stuck to it is because I had a core group. And the moment that the core group people start dropping off, you'll start seeing a whole lot of their player base drop off because you have your fire team going, and the moment one person drops off from that full fire team, the rest slowly keep going until there's nobody playing.
Right,
And
and seeing,
fast.
50,000 players during their peaks right now, which is roughly what they're doing on Steam charts, 45 to 50K
Right.
during their peaks. That's a sticky enough audience if you can keep it.
It is.
Like you had your big
is,
you
but
had
the
your
problem-
you had your big day one audience. You're not going to keep that. You're not going to keep that.
Right. The problem is keeping it, though, because you have your extraction shooter, and you can only go through that same scenario so many times.
Yeah,
One
but
of the things that
hold
kept
on.
people
Let me
going
throw this at you though,
Huh?
because you don't expect to
Mhm.
keep your day one audience, but their day one audience
Mhm.
wasn't massively bigger on Steam than their peaks. Their all-time peak was a little over 77,000. There are 48,000 people playing on Steam as of 30 minutes ago. Like, so they
Right, but
didn't go from, Concord levels or High Guard levels down to like I have 4% of my audience. They have kept
Right.
roughly in the peaks, granted, in the peaks, they have kept like over 2/3 of their Steam players. Now, that's probably not the number they wanted. They probably wanted all of these numbers to be a lot bigger. But
Right.
we have seen multiple games, even from development houses as big as Bungie, Troy, survive on smaller numbers than these.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you consider a success, right? As far as Sony's concerned, but we've seen them survive on less. What have you been thinking, looking at some of the coverage and thinking? Because I know you were, hey, I might play this, but I totally forgot it was a thing at one point.
Yeah. Really, I haven't been keeping up with it. I haven't been watching it. I see the news for it, how, the numbers and kind of the scores and stuff come across my screen, and on YouTube, some of the folks that I follow talk about it here and there, but it's not anything that I'm going to spend $40 on to play, quite honestly. Bungie is just it's not my company like it is Yod's. I have no
was
loyalty,
It's not
I
really
guess,
my
to the
company.
Yeah,
company.
Yod doesn't have loyalty anymore. He's a traitor.
I still remember the very first time I ever met Yod. I walk into his house and he's just sitting there playing Destiny. And I'm just like, okay, how's Destiny? He's like, man, it's great.
I mean, at one point in time, we had 2 full raid crews going simultaneously on Destiny. So, that's 12 people going at the same time in the same clan.
That's hot.
So, it was a big thing. We had
He
crews
had
going, but the
zero
moment-
reaction, Troy. I was like, that's hot. He just kept going. He didn't care.
But the moment that the crew starts dropping off is what I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
you got what, four person fire team in Marathon, I think, or is it 3 still? I don't remember. But the moment you start losing people in the group that you're playing with, the entire group goes away. And you don't tend to find another group, so you just stop playing. It's just...
Yeah. The next... were you asking the group size of Marathon? I'm sorry. It's 3 if you were asking.
A little bit,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
It's 3.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I think the next 2 weekends are going to be
Mhm.
pretty important. It's really going to say,
Right.
okay, we're now 3 weeks in, we're now 4 weeks in. They did make a bit of a goof with the the update that they added post-launch. They thought, hey, maybe we should make the sound of gunfire able to be heard from greater distances than what originally was in the game. And then they turned it up in this patch, and people were just like, I'm getting murked 5 seconds after I fire a gun anywhere. And they said, yeah, we maybe made a mistake, and things are a little too loud. You can hear gunfire from ridiculous distances. They are going to make some changes to that and kind of dial it back down a little bit. But that's kind of a cheeky oops problem to have.
I hear it made the game a little too sweaty.
Yeah. And for a game that already, like, one of the common complaints or things that people love about it, depending on which side you're on, is the time to kill is relatively low compared to most extraction shooters. So that just kind of exacerbated it.
It was the same with Destiny PvP on PlayStation side. Is that the PvP was very sweaty, and since it's a similar player base with Marathon, and from what I'm reading, you're either going into these matches and 2 seconds in you're dead, that's it, or you're not seeing anybody. There's no in between apparently. So
yeah, it's one we're going to keep an eye on over the next 2 weeks here, just to see what ends up shaking out. But I got to believe, Troy, if they would have hit 1 million sales, we would have heard about it already. We definitely would have heard about it already. The state of New York, moving on here, is suing Valve, and now Valve has publicly responded, something I did not expect them to do when this was initially announced. So, according to Reuters, Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, said that the mystery boxes, here we go again, Troy, right, were promoting illegal gambling and threatening to addict children, and referred to them as quintessential gambling in violation of New York gambling laws, and is actually taking Valve to court over it. Now, Valve, which normally doesn't make public comments on stuff like this, did make a public comment on this one in a full, statement over on Steam Powered. It's a long statement. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. But they're writing that the New York Attorney General wants to eliminate the ability to share and transfer digital items, and is demanding that more personal data be collected to aid in age verification. They say, we believe it's in our and Steam's users' interest to only collect the information necessary to operate the business and comply with the law. It may have been easier and cheaper for Valve to make a deal with the New York Attorney General, but we believe the type of deal that would satisfy the NYAG would have been bad for users and other game developers and impacted our ability to innovate in game design. Those extraneous comments are a distraction and a mischaracterization we've heard before, talking about James's comments about it being, gambling. Or that video games relate to real-world violence, those types of things. Numerous studies throughout the years have concluded there is no link between media, movies, TV, books, comics, music, and games and real-world violence. Indeed, many studies highlight the beneficial impact of games to users. And Valve said, hey, we'll comply with any any laws New York legislature passes governing mystery boxes. But they did sum up their post with, ultimately a court will decide whose position, ours or the New York Attorney General's, is correct. In the meantime, we wanted to make sure you were aware of the potential impact to users in New York and everywhere else. On the surface, Troy, we've seen this multiple times in multiple countries when it comes to loot boxes, crates, gotcha pools, all of this types of stuff. And while it has in some areas of Europe, particularly Belgium, right, was one that comes up a lot, they have passed legislation regarding these. This isn't going anywhere, is it? It's just absolutely, you're not going to be able to go into, in my mind, into a New York court of law and convince somebody that this is gambling the way gambling is defined in United States law right now, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that I think the law should change. I think that lock boxes, loot boxes, gotcha pools, all that stuff should be considered gambling.
Oh, I agree.
But
we share the same opinion on that, as we've well documented on MMO Bomb over the last 15 years.
Yeah, I think Valve's little twist on this is they're trying to change the narrative on it a little bit, trying to talk about government overreach and this and that, and they talked about TCGs, and I don't play TCGs because of that reason, because of the blind pools
Yeah,
and
we're
things
buying
like that.
packs of baseball cards. That's the equivalency
Yeah,
that Valve used, the one we always
yeah.
see used. Yeah.
hmm So I mean, there are reasons I don't partake in that kind of stuff either. I don't partake in loot boxes. I can't say that I've never bought a loot box before, but I've since learned my lesson on that crap, and I don't buy loot boxes anymore. But yeah, you see it going forward as far as United States law. I don't see this going very far. Especially, I can see the legislation itself trying to do something, but once it hits a court of law, um, man, it would be hard to get this passed as pure gambling, based on, like you said, based on how gambling is defined here.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't want to see tighter restrictions on this type of stuff or tighter legislation on these. I do. And I don't think it's just in my brain. It's not just for kids, right? Because there's a certain element of when it comes to your children, I really believe as a parent, it's your job to do certain things. And that's fine, right? We may disagree on where that line is. That's totally fine. I look at it just not only from children, but also people with just addictive personalities that have or just have certain issues or certain types of neurodivergency that these types of practices prey upon. It isn't just children, and I think that's an important step back.
No, it's not.
It is not just kids that some of these practices prey on. And I have lauded, some types of legislation and things in certain countries and want it here in the United States. But I think just trying to sue Valve straight out, I just don't think that gets anywhere until there is legislation that more rigidly defines or encapsulates the practice of loot boxes as gambling, or not as gambling, or as something else that is then legislated, Yod.
Right. I mean, targeting just Valve isn't gonna work because it's a systemic issue. It's not a company issue.
Conversely, doing it in one state isn't going to work either.
Right.
No.
Right. and as things go right now, nothing like that is going to happen on the country level, on a federal level. So it's just, yeah, the case is just going to sit there. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Chirac, you're absolutely right. Right, mobile games are infinitely worse on this topic.
Oh yeah,
infinitely
but
worse.
The
only argument that could be applied here that you can't generally is mobile games is the whole idea that you can sell and or trade the goods in like Counter-Strike and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And Valve has done some stuff in the past and let some things slide for a very long time before they started cracking down on like illegal gambling sites and things like that. And really the kind of crackdown was because they wanted the money internal to the Steam platform and not external to the Steam platform.
Exactly.
But yeah, so there is an argument there that it's maybe they're trying to encapsulate a bit of a difference between just mobile loot boxes and mobile loot box economies, which is kind of what Steam has going with the ability to trade and sell and all that stuff. So,
right.
It's certainly one that I'll be watching because I want this. I really would like. I'd love a court to say, "Hey, Valve, knock it off." I just don't realistically see how a court can cite a legislative violation here to tell Valve knock it off without it immediately just being struck down on some type of appeal. I don't know. And I'm not pretending I'm a master of New York law. Maybe there are some statutes that they intend to use here that I'm just not aware of. But broadly speaking, I think it's a bit of an uphill battle. Although Letitia James has filed numerous uphill battles and surprisingly been able to win some of them. So we'll see. Can't even count how many it's okay because Valve you've seen since this story broke. I'm not sure what you meant to say there. Am I reading it? I can't even count how many it's okay because Valve. Oh, okay. So quotes around "it's okay" cause Valve. Yeah, it's not okay. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not okay
No.
cause Valve.
No.
It's
No.
absolutely not okay cause Valve.
Nope.
At least,
I mean,
go ahead.
they've got some points on their side, but no, it's not okay just because it's Valve.
Nope. All right, so miscellaneous news bits here before we call it a day. I don't want to say that Lost Ark's in trouble, but Lost Ark might be in trouble right now.
Just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit. So Rox is gone, Henry is gone, so Matt. Those are primarily like the three major Western faces here for Lost Ark, published by Amazon Games. Well, I mean, obviously Amazon Games had its own, New World going away and a bunch of layoffs and everything. Well, now Henry, Rox, and Matt are off to new opportunities, which basically that means everybody that was very community facing as far as Lost Ark goes is now gone. Now, I don't know if this means like Lost Ark eventually goes away in the West. There is the chance, right, that like Smilegate could just find a different publisher if Amazon decided to drop this or not renew the publishing contract whenever it comes up. I don't have news saying it's closing. That's for sure. I don't even have news saying that Amazon Games isn't going to be the publisher anymore. But it doesn't really bode well, Troy, when you get rid of all three of the main characters in your community-facing team, right?
Yeah. There's the old saying, where there's smoke, there's usually fire, right? Like when you start seeing things like that happen, you start to get a little nervous for sure.
What does that mean for Throne and Liberty, by the way? Like, I'm amazed that one's still around, too.
Yeah, I can't believe we still got that going on right now.
Amazon just chugging along.
Amazon's probably just letting their AI run everything at this point.
And sometimes the segues just continue to write themselves. Since you bring up AI, I didn't want to make this like a full-blown topic for today because it is just like 24 hours oldish, and this is certainly going to be something that we could opine on for hours today, but in 6 months when it's actually more released or more available, could look very different than it does today. But I did want to get your quick opinions. Troy, we'll start with you on the whole DLSS 5 reveal from NVIDIA and the blowback on that so far.
I don't know. This seems like a good use of AI to me. I feel like this is sort of the direction that AI should go in terms of this. So I'm not sure what the big blowback is. I mean, I understand what the big blowback is, but I'm not sure that I agree with necessarily all the big blowback on it. I think we're still probably some time away from seeing this come to full fruition anyway. I think tech demos and things like that are what they are, and they're not necessarily, full on releases and this is exactly how it's going to be and this is exactly when it's happening and things like that. But to see the tools and stuff being used for improvements in games, it's sort of the direction that it should go, I think.
Yad, your take?
Hey, we did have a little bit of a, more in-depth talk about it pre-show,
Yeah.
you and I. But basically what it boiled down to was the fact that if it's more affordable, because right now it's running on two 5090 video cards, which that's not affordable.
To be fair, one of them is running the games. The other one
That's not
is
the
running.
point. You know it. That's not the point.
The point is it takes a lot of hardware, but it doesn't require two of them for just this. It only requires one of them. As long as that one isn't also playing a game.
Right. The entire 5090 just to do this is a problem. It wasn't optimized, because obviously each game would have to optimize the system for it. So that's what some of the blowback was. So in some ways, I think it is a decent step, but the other thing is it really needs more work. It's not ready for the public yet.
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on this one. And I don't take any like AI thing as just immediately being bad. Just because I think companies aren't maybe utilizing it in the most ethical of ways right now is different
Right.
from me being against the technology. I'm not generally just for or against any technology, including AI. On this topic, this is one of those weird intersections of AI and art, in which we just kind of alluded to a little earlier. When I watched the demo on the surface, I don't think you can deny that there were certain aspects of the showing off of with the DLSS 5 on and off that just unequivocally looked better. To me,
Right.
the environments just unequivocally looked better in almost every single example. And again, I'm not even begrudging anybody that says, oh, I disagree, because this is very much the eye of the beholder situation, right? I think something looks better. You think something doesn't look better. I think you're wrong in some cases here, because I think it was just it was that much better, particularly in the
Some of them were very dramatic, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In faces, I was a little split. Some of them I was like, oh yeah, that's a cool improvement. Then other ones I was like, I don't know. I feel like that kind of takes away from where the artist was trying to go and feels a little Instagram filtery, and the lighting was definitely not perfect on any of these. It tended to, like the one for Resident Evil, at least to me, it seemed like it was adding front lighting. And I've seen the whole arguments of this is changing geometry. No, it's not changing geometry. In fact, the CEO of NVIDIA today, when people were just calling it AI slop, he was like, they're just wrong. It's not doing what you think it's doing. It's not, and I was like, okay, fine. Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, I just remember being like in grade school, Troy, and this was the type of technology where we're like, wait a minute, what if one day you could just turn something on and do this? And like, now we're here. I kind of was digging it. I wasn't all for it on some of the faces. That's not to say that I didn't appreciate what the technology was doing, but I just it was super impressive. But it just did it in such like a generic way that all the characters started to like just kind of fall into that, what is mass marketed as beautiful, what is mass marketed as handsome, and let's make all the characters look like that. It kind of started to homogenize that. I know NVIDIA has said that developers will have an impressive amount of control over this, and that this demo obviously doesn't represent what Capcom might have done in Resident Evil 9 with this tool if they could have messed with this tool during the development of the game, right?
Right.
This is NVIDIA's just interpretation of turn the service on and let's see what happens, and they thought it was good and they put it out there. So developers are going to get, apparently, the ability to do quite a bit of customization as far as limiting even what the thing's allowed to edit to begin with, much less how it may edit or enhance a certain image in a frame-by-frame AI analysis. I think that's insanely powerful technology. The other side of this that I do worry a little bit about is, again, the unethical using of it by the higher-ups as a replacement for art, not an enhancement to art. Which, if I'm looking at this tool, this is very much a tool of, God damn, Yod, could this make some really cool work enhancing, like, could you imagine Yod just, like, being able to sketch something out in, like, the initial sketch and then use this to, within half an hour, take that sketch to where he wanted to, instead of taking the next 3 hours to do it by hand. And then he could jump back in and do the finishing work that he just didn't quite like what the AI did. Like, man, that would be incredibly time-saving for somebody like Yod. But the higher-ups are going to view it as a, can we get rid of 5 artists because now 2 of them, if we keep these 2, we could suck up this enhancement time and use this to finish the process. That's going to be where it kind of gets a little gray to me. I do want to see where this goes. I think there's tremendous tech going on there. It's just not consumer viable yet based on what you need to run it.
Oh, definitely not.
And it's not supposed to be, right? They're planning to bring this out till fall. I really want to see what developers start to say about this tool. Not executives in development houses. I want to see what developers start saying about some of the tools they have access to during the development process. That's key to me because this demo was just, these works are finished on older model cards. Let's show you what DLSS 5 can do to them, not where it's the right place to use them, which is in the development process. So you don't have this, oh, hey, why is she being lit from the front as dramatically? That's not what we as the artists in mapping the scene wanted. Let's move these lights a little bit. That's where I can't wait to see how developers react to this. It's a net good in my book. It's certainly interesting in my book. I'm just worried, as usual, that executives will misuse the tool, and then things start looking the samey and stuff like that. Those concerns become a little more valid.
They probably will.
And I think just because executives
will.
might misuse a tool doesn't mean that the tool shouldn't be developed and going further. I think it's still a good idea to develop these tools.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So look, there, Takal. Surprised you on that one. Takal showed up to the show today, thought we were going to poo-poo all over that one. Nope. You got a surprisingly rational take on it.
AI is the future. You might as well accept it.
Right.
Yes and no.
Hey, so Mink's work put out a game called Honcho. Okay. Now, if you don't know what the game is, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You are, excuse me, you take the role of a Japanese woman trying to build an empire of vending machines. That's all you need to know for this to be great. This story to be great.
I want to play this game, by the way.
Yeah. This isn't the company's first game, by the way. They had Jalopy, which it was their previous thing, and it had a male protagonist, but Honcho does not. You just have to be a Japanese woman trying to build your vending machine empire. And of course, the internet hates that, right? The internet absolutely hates that. According to one player on Steam's forums, as Polygon writes, they said, there's really only one thing I'm hoping for, and that's the ability to play as a male character if you wanted to. I know I've talked to you on Reddit before, but I'm not a fan of playing a female character. It kind of ruins my immersion, honestly. Okay, I just have to say right there that not being able to be a male character ruins my immersion just as much as the fact that I am not Japanese. Like, come on. Fuck. Internet. God damn it. Just get the vending machine money going, folks. So, what do you think Honcho did? Developers of Honcho did? Well, they were going to add a new model. The developer responded to an old thread with an update to this request. And just like Polygon said, I'm going to say, I'm willing to bet, even with the picture on screen, you're never going to guess what they said. Minxworks said, I've added the ability to play as Mr. Tofu, who is a sentient block of tofu, which hides the player's body with option to also hide hands. This game is funded by hopes and dreams, so it's unlikely I'll have the breathing room to add a fully rigged male character with their own unlockable outfits and story beats. Hopefully the above is a reasonable compromise.
I absolutely love that. It makes me want to play the game so much.
This is amazing. I really can't be spending months animating, rigging, and testing a whole new character model. Tofu fitted within these constraints and was chosen because I'm a big fan of Resident Evil 2.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. Troll level over 9,000, and I love it. Yeah. So that is Mr. Tofu. You got your male character. Hey, I don't know if you remember, Troy, but Elder Scrolls 6 is a thing, right? I didn't sleep through that being announced 8 years ago, right?
Yeah. It's a thing. It's not a thing, but it is a thing.
Just want you all to know that Todd.
Has it been 8 years?
It has. It has. As IGN puts it, by the way, which I think is a very interesting thing, the Elder Scrolls 6 was announced almost 8 years ago, making it longer between the announcement and now than it was between the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim and the announcement of Elder Scrolls 6.
How many Skyrims have come out since then?
47. So Todd Howard does want you to know that maybe you should just pretend it was never announced. And he wants to be more conscious of what he announces. He talked to IGN saying that, he likes to announce things as close to launch as possible, so you're surprised by how fast you get to play it, and has just said, hey, can you pretend that we didn't announce Elder Scrolls 6?
I was gonna say he says that, but what he does is just completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to announce things that are close to the launch. Never mind, I announced this 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is as bad as the whole viral McDonald's CEO biting the McArch.
Oh, that's great. The fallout of that still
'Cause
continues to this day, by the way.
Yeah, because the more you talk about it, the more you protest it, the more people are gonna look at it, the more people are gonna ask when Skyrim 6 is gonna, or when Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna come out. Not the next Skyrim, but the next Elder Scrolls. Just like the more the CEO of McDonald's protests his bite, the more people are gonna make fun of him.
Hey,
for it.
man, he only took a little bite because off camera prior to recording, he had eaten a whole sandwich because he just couldn't wait.
Right.
He loves
And there
McDonald's.
was a cut in between when he took the bite and when he swallowed.
Hey, I did have something in the show notes that I'm going to cut just in the interest of time now. But if you're a TCG player like myself, I may throw this in the miscellaneous news next week. Once the Kickstarter goes live, be able to check it out. Cyberpunk is making a TCG. And by the way, there is not going to be any more content for Cyberpunk as far as CD Projekt Red is concerned. They said publicly while talking about secret DLC for Witcher 3 that there's no planned content for Cyberpunk. So you're going to have to wait for the sequel if you want more. But there is a TCG that's being kickstarted I think it's this week, a little later this week or early next week, or it might have been today, actually. Hold on. Here we go. I put the link in here for a reason.
They can add into the game the ability to play the TCG in the game.
Yeah,
that would be a total deal.
It went live today. They were seeking $100,000. They've made $6.5 million. So I'm pretty sure that one's funded. So yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. It's one I'll be keeping an eye on just because of my love of TCGs. And IGN got to play some sample tribal decks from their test kits. And there's dice involved, and you can steal resources or dice from your opponents. It sounds pretty interesting. It's definitely one I'm going to check out. Stay tuned to streams here on Gaming Gumbo. I usually do streams and live streams of different TCG stuff. But I did want to make sure that we covered Crimson Desert, which comes out tomorrow. Tomorrow? No, 2 days from now. Thursday, the 19th. Yeah, it's the 19th. And they finally released some console footage, which is what I'm showing you now. However, it was only on the PS5 Pro, which has caused its own controversy. Really? You're going to release console footage, and that's the console you release it? How about the rest of us who don't have PS5 Pros? Can you show us what it's going to look like on that thing? I'm actually really, really interested. Crimson Desert, drifting horses and all. If you haven't seen that, just go look it up. 2 days. Have you been watching it, Yad? Are you going to pick this up? Is this something you're interested in? What are you thinking? Crimson Desert.
I had not really been watching it. I remember touching upon it before, when it first was announced. But it does look really cool, and I am interested in it now.
Troy?
Drifting horses and all.
It looks really cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure that it's going to be $70 worth for me.
That is also.
I'm gonna be watching some of the early gameplay once the game launches, and see what some of the folks that I follow and I kind of jive with as far as what they like, what they don't like, what they think of it going into it a little bit, and kind of see really some hands-on gameplay before I make my decision on it.
Yeah, and just in case you might be curious, for you PC players, they did go ahead and release the specs and the expected performance on consoles. So on PCs, for the recommended, you are going to get 1080p, 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second at 4K. The recommended is going to require at least a Radeon RX 6700 XT or a GeForce RTX 2080. And the CPU is going to be an AMD Ryzen 5 5600 or an Intel i5 11600K. And those are all for the recommended settings. All of the recommended, ultra, high, all of them require 16 gigabytes of RAM, Windows 10, 64-bit or higher, and at least 150 gigabytes of available space on an SSD. When we're talking about the PlayStation 5, the target performance range for that at performance mode is 60 FPS VSync, 60 plus FPS VRR, 40 frames on balanced, and 30 on quality. Now, we'll see if those numbers hold up. I do think it's a little interesting that you dropped the console footage on the PlayStation 5 Pro. And I can't validate this or not. I just kind of got to go take this with a grain of salt. But there were people on Twitter saying that they were blocked by members of the team and the main social media account for questioning why or asking where the standard console footage was. Why'd you use a PS5 Pro? Obviously, I can't go into somebody's account and see if they were really blocked and see if that was the only reason they were blocked and they weren't also being a dick in 900 other tweets. So grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt, but it is interesting. Let's go do games of the week. End every episode of Gaming Gumbo here. It's where all three of us are going to recommend a game. Could be a video game, card game, board game, mobile game, something we played in the past, haven't played at all, or think you should check out, and you let us know who gave the best recommendation. Troy, we're going to start with you.
I finally broke down and picked up Norland on Steam, early access game. I've been enjoying it. If you're a fan of RimWorld, something like that, if a more medieval setting sounds like your cup of tea, then it's in a very enjoyable game. You can do the whole 4X thing, and you get your family lineage and stuff like that. So it's been a game that I've been checking out, and I've been really kind of sinking my time into.
I'm going to recommend one that isn't out yet, but if you want to support the game devs, Black Griffin I'm sorry, the Black Griffin's the one that does the song that I'm about to talk about. If you want to support the devs on their Patreon, you can get alpha access to the game. So technically, you can play it if you shell out like $5 or $10. But it's Billy Bust Up, which is a 3D platformer. You can check it out on Steam. That is incredibly inspired by like Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar type animation movies, which I absolutely love that art style. The game looks fantastic. I love watching the Million Gruesome Ways to Die. If you search that and just watch a video of somebody playing that level, A Million Gruesome Ways to Die from Billy Bust Up, it's single-handedly on some reel or Instagram or something somewhere. I saw that and I was like, what fucking game is that? I want to be playing that right now. I was disappointed to find out it is not out yet. It is expected to come out this year, but you can Patreon your way into an alpha. Yad, you're up.
I'm going to go way old and tell you to go find the original marathons. The storyline was so much better. They had a great sense of humor, and they were first-person shooter Doom-like games. So, yeah, find some way to play them.
Fair enough. That's going to do it here for us on Gaming Gumbo. Thank you for stopping by, hanging out with us. We'll be back on Thursday with an episode of The Relic Grind. Of course, our streams throughout the weekends, and Monday, Final Fantasy Trading Card Game Locals, which I won't have a stream for that this Monday because it is pre-release weekend for the new Opus set, and pre-releases are Saturday and Sunday. I might try to stream the one on Saturday, but I don't know. We'll see if it works out, but there won't be a local gameplay on next Monday. We won't be there. So yeah, hang on out. Follow us on Twitter, all that fun stuff. Until next time, Troy, where can everybody find you?
If I'm on
napping,
your platform,
that's
Newbridge.
taking a nap. That's where you can find this dog.
You damn right. That's where I'm going next.
Yad.
Yacht artworks on the socials, except for Twitter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there, Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Radio, and you'll know every time we're going live with a podcast, a stream, gaming, card games, and more. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers. Later.